Today I want to talk about the entire Penacony Quest timeline and explain why it is not a time loop. The confusion about the timeline is related to when exactly Anna's dream started. If it started from the moment the Astral Express did warp jump into the Astana star system, then does that mean everything that happened since 2.0 was simply one gigantic dream? But then, if it had always been Anna's dream from the beginning, why did Sunday let the Express crew investigate the truth about the Watchmaker, about his legacy, and about Penacony's history, to the point that MC managed to attract Shuppei's gaze? Seemed kinda counterproductive with his goal, didn't it? Well, the simple explanation to that lies in none other than Akron, the emanator of nihility who cannot be affected by the power of other path. If we lay out the entire Penacony Quest timeline in a simplified manner, this is what we got. It all started with a warp jump into the Astana star system. Then MC woke up in a dreamscape where they met Akron, whom later told them to wake up from the dream. Then MC woke up back on the train and made their way to Reverie Reality where they would check in and were greeted by Misha. Once their check-in issue was resolved, MC proceeded to their room and got ready to enter the family's dreamscape where a lot of shenanigans happened until the Express crew fought Sunday for the first time. After the fight, MC woke up back in their hotel room greeted by Marge and learned the conclusion of the fight whereby the crew won and now they were ready for their next journey. Except MC was actually still in a dream, as Black Swan learned from their memories. She didn't help MC realize it, allowing them to wake up from the dream. This was when MC regrouped with Akron, Black Swan, Robin, Dan Heng, and Boothill, who also had woken up from the dream. Finally, MC and the crew fought Sunday for the second time, won the fight, and back in their hotel room they were. A recap of 3 Trailbest quests in under 2 minutes, I guess? Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, Akron is the key to figuring out when Anna's dream started and when it ended. The Dream Master was adamant in banishing her from Penacony, right? And Tiernan said that she would have definitely been denied access to Penacony had she tried to check in as Akron Salfona later, because once the family knew she's a follower of Nihility, she posed a threat against the illusion they were about to pull off. So it's like one of those sci-fi movies where multiple instances of illusions exist alongside reality, and only by following the one thing or the one person who has been established as part of reality can we distinguish reality from illusion. Like Inception, for example. DiCaprio's character uses this little spinning pendulum thing to check whether he's still dreaming. If it continues spinning without losing momentum, then he's still in a dream. Meanwhile, for us, the audience, the easier way is to follow DiCaprio's father-in-law's character. In every scene that he appears, it is reality. Akron is the Michael Caine character in the scenario. Anywhere she appears in Penacony, that place is not affected by Anna's dream. Remember when MC woke up after the first fight against Sunday, and along with Marge and Black Swan they regrouped with Dan Heng and Boothill? Boothill talked about his pursuit of a certain someone, but somehow he was unable to recall who that person was. Neither could Dan Heng and Black Swan. At first, it might seem like Akron was doing her mind control red text thing on them, just like when she influenced MC's dialogue options in previous instances, which was the misdirection of it all. It's not that Akron was influencing everyone to forget about her, because why would she? It was already established that Akron trusted the Express and Black Swan and had no ill intent towards Boothill despite him believing otherwise. Instead, it's because this was the start of Anna's dream, and the Order had no hold over Akron. Sunday created this utopia where all's well that ends well with the power of order. Everyone had fallen into Anna's dream somewhere during the first fight against Sunday. He created the illusion of Dan Heng and Jing Yuan coming to the rescue, of the crew defeating him, of everyone celebrating the victory and happily lending their support to develop Penacony alongside the family. Like, come on. I get that he's trying to create a utopia, but the IPC willingly dropping their corporate greed? The Genie Society abandoning their pursuit of understanding the eons to help a planet prosper? Not my Genie Society, they weren't. But I digress. Point is, Anna's dream started to take full control of Penacony during the first fight against Sunday, which was also the start of the Charmony Festival. And because Akron could not be affected by the power of other paths, she was not present in this dream utopia. That was why Boothill, Dan Heng, and Black Swan couldn't remember her. That was why nobody ever mentioned her name since. In this utopia created by Sunday, Akron simply didn't exist. And it was only when MC realized that they were still in a dream, thanks to Black Swan and Misha, they woke up to the dreamscape outside of Anna's dream and met Akron again. So that's it. Anna's dream took control of the entire Penacony only for a short while, starting during the first boss fight until the moment the Express crew defeated Sunday in the second fight. But then, if that is the case, if Anna's dream only started towards the end of 2.2 Quest, how can we explain Misha's existence in Reverie reality? The simple answer is, Reverie reality is also a dreamscape. Sort of. MC and everyone else who journeys into the Asdana star system has been quote-unquote dreaming the entire time since they arrived in Penacony, but not in the sense that everything that has happened throughout has been a dream. You see, Gallagher said that the entirety of Penacony is a Stellaron disaster. Penacony itself exists in the Asdana star system, right? Known for its high concentration of Memoria. Before it was the planet of festivities, Penacony was a frontier prison owned by the IPC and used to salvage the leakage of Memoria from the memory zone. And by the way, if all these terms are confusing you, think of it this way. The memory zone is like our circulatory system, and Memoria is the blood in the system. Instead of carrying oxygen and nutrients or carbon dioxide and waste, Memoria carries human memory and consciousness. Back in the day, around 10 Amber Eras ago, there was a leakage in the memory zone where Memoria could seep through, just like when we cut ourselves and bleed. The prisoners in the frontier prison were tasked to salvage the leakage by the IPC, right? So it is safe to assume that the frontier prison itself was located nearby, if not directly on top of the leakage. Problem is, if you're not a memo keeper, individual serving the eons of remembrance, you might experience various side effects from prolonged exposure to Memoria, including dizziness, hallucination, and distorted memories, which was what happened to the prisoners. At some point in time, their consciousness started to link up in dreams. They shared a dream that seemed so real that it inspired them to break free from the IPC, which they did. However, once they won the war, Mikhail and his crew soon faced many challenges in their attempt to rebuild Penacony, among which was the fact that, well, Penacony was sinking into the memory zone. The townsfolk, I suppose ex-prisoners, right, suggested that they use the Stellaron to solve this issue. They got no help from Emanators of Remembrance or Enigmata, those powerful enough to manipulate memories, so what else could they do? Of course, naturally, they would turn to the one thing that promised them massive power to preserve the land of exile that they fought so hard to liberate from the IPC, just as how the Stellaron poisoned Kokola's mind with the promise of a new world. After all, this was the same Stellaron that erupted in the frontier prison that kicked off the start of the war for freedom. Seemed kind of fitting to continue to harness its power, I guess. So, despite Mikhail's strong opposition, the townsfolk eventually managed to activate the Stellaron, letting it seep into the very structure of the land of exile. It was during this era that Gopherwood, the very same Gopherwood who adopted Sunday and Robin, came into the picture. While Mikhail still had his reservation about the Stellaron being used to power up Penacony, Gopherwood harnessed its power further, splitting Penacony into 12 moments of dreams. That's what Gallagher meant when he said that the planet of festivities was a Stellaron disaster. They manipulated Memoria with the power of the Stellaron to create the land of dream, to build islands on the vast sea of memory to keep themselves afloat, so to speak. Then, to accommodate the fluctuation of tourists visiting Penacony, Mikhail suggested to Gopherwood that they should build a hotel as an entrance for the visitors. The very same hotel that the Express crew went to check in at the very beginning of Penacony Quest, the Reverie Hotel in reality. That's why Misha could be at the lobby. The lobby is a dreamscape. It has always been. When Akron told MC to wake up to the real world during their first encounter, MC thought they were back in reality, right? Well, actually had fallen one layer deeper into the dream. But everything that MC experienced since 2.0 was indeed real, except for Misha, in the sense that Misha was not a real person. The encounter was real, but Misha was not. He was a mimetic entity created by Mikhail based on the memory of his younger self. I hope that makes sense. Oh, and by the way, that was also why an origami bird could be found at the lobby, which was the very first clue for us players about the true nature of the Reverie reality before 2.2. Remember the Michael Caine method earlier? Misha and the origami bird are the Michael Caines in the scenario. Everywhere we could see them must be a dreamscape. Which, yes, of course, include the train whenever Misha comes to the Express, because the Express arrived in Penacony. We are in a dream, that's why Misha could come to visit us at the train. It is as Akron said, dreams eventually become indistinguishable from reality, and reality becomes an illusion. There are no multiple timelines at play here. There is no first timeline where the lobby was actually a reality and MC never met Misha, and then after defeating Sunday, the timeline was reset and MC entered the second timeline where they met Misha and so on. It is not a time loop. It is simply one timeline from start to finish that happens in layers, with only a fraction of it fully influenced by Anna's dream. Except for the time before the Express's warp jump into Asdana, everything that has happened throughout takes place in a dreamscapes. Which is not to say that those events are not real, because as Misha said, dreams and Penacony are not false, they are simply another reality. But hey, MC did see snippets of the future when they did the warp jump into Asdana, right? What is that if not a telltale sign that MC is stuck in a time loop? Well, here's the thing. Some of us seem to forget that MC seeing snippets of future events is not exclusive to Penacony. As someone who's recently started a new account, let me tell you that it has happened before, all the way back to the very first 2 hours of the game at Herda Space Station. Remember the fight against the Doomsday Beast? At one point during the fight, MC stepped in front of March to block an attack from the Doomsday Beast, and it sort of triggered the Stellaron inside of them to activate. As it was activating, MC saw snippets of events in Belobog, of Bronya talking with Zella in the Underworld, and even of the Cocolia boss fight. But I suppose we all forgot about it because it happened very early on. But the point remains. MC seeing snippets of the future is not unique to Penacony. It's more of an attribute of the Stellaron. Because the entirety of Penacony is a Stellaron disaster, it makes sense that MC saw those snippets the moment the train did a warp jump into the star system. Whether that means Stellarons hold information of future events and how, that is a separate topic that will require its own time and attention. So I will stop here for now. Thank you so much for listening to my yapping, and I will see you in the next one.